Dark Crisis Big Bang issue 1, Mark Waid writing with Dan Jurgens on the art. I knew very little about this going into it. It was just kind of another Dark Crisis one shot that kind of appeared.
Yeah, I remember this one from Solicits because it was gonna say they were talking about how they're gonna explain the new worlds that we've been getting. You know, the Tom Taylor, Dark Knights of Steel, you know, drastically DC Mech. They were gonna not explain, but showcase where they fit into the multiverse, and that was all. And it was gonna be written by Mark Waid. So I will say it's a little bit disappointing, just because I expect more out of Mark Waid, and this just kind of felt like a whistle stop tour of the multiverse. And the story, when I have Mark Waid writing a Flash character, I don't know, I just have higher expectations. And not that this was bad, but it was just kind of there for me. And yeah, I thought it should have been a little bit better.
Yeah, the issue is Barry taking Wallace around the multiverse looking for the Anti-Monitor, which I'm not really sure why. This kind of felt out of nowhere to me. Like,
so I felt like what they were trying to say, right, is you remember in that last tie-in that we read with Robin and his team that introduced us to Red Canary, they went to the dead JL Apes world, and they kind of hinted that something happened that wasn't the darkness. This is what I'm feeling that it was. It was the Anti-Monitor. And the Anti-Monitor is just taking advantage of all the chaos that's going on and is coming through and doing his Anti-Monitor shtick. I just wish that was more clear in the main book, right? Because the main book is just the darkness and Pariah and, you know, them fighting that.
That's just felt out of nowhere for me.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I thought the book was well enough written. Like, I think Mark Waid's got the voices of the characters down, and he clearly loves the DC multiverse, because all these references as they're going through, like, you know, you see Dark Knights of Steel universe, you see DC versus Vampires, Jurassic League, like, you see all these modern ones, but you also see lots of like obscure references. You see obviously, you know, Earth 2, Earth 3 with the Crime Syndicate, and so on and so on. In fact, there's so many that the back of the book has a list of where all the Earths are and where they come from, which is quite handy. What's weird about it though, and what made it feel a little bit less like a story and more like just like a sort of, you know,
it's a tour of the multiverse, right? Like,
but it like, as I was, you know, there's a few pages early on where as I'm reading it and I'm like, this is just like 3 pages in a row of showing me different Earths. There's very little actually happening in terms of story here, and a bit more starts happening when like they actually get to the Anti-Monitor and they start fighting them and they start going through different Earths with the fight, and you know, you see like again more, but it is ultimately just a lot of like cameos of different Earths, and then eventually a bunch of heroes from different Earths team up to help Barry and Wallace,
the backup,
you know, fight the Anti-Monitor.
And that's what I mean with Waid, is that I know Waid loves all this stuff, right? Waid is kind of one of us in that, and that he loves the DC universe and everything that these characters stand for. So I just expected more than just like cameos and stuff. Like, I expected him to weave a story with Barry interacting with some of these characters and giving us like, you know, a little bit more than just like, hey, look at the Dark Knights of Steel Earth, and hey, look at the DC versus Vampires Earth, and you know, so that's all. But again, the Jurgens art's fine too, because Jurgens is a pretty solid, you know, artist still. So, you know, these characters all look like they do in their other Earths. So I think it wasn't bad. It was just, again, it was just kind of there for me. However, I did like the index a lot in the back, because you start getting into some of these more like lesser known ones. And I don't remember the number, but the description is, nothing really is different except everyone's a werewolf. And I just thought that explanation was hilarious.
Yeah, I think this just feels like a tie-in. They wanted another one-shot, and Mark Waid said, yeah, sure, I'll have fun just listing a bunch of Earths and referencing a bunch of obscure shit. And that's kind of all it is, though. And, you know, at the end, it just kind of says, yeah, Dark Crisis will finish in issue 7. And I feel like this didn't really add anything to Dark Crisis in any way, shape, or form. I mean, it was nice that Barry and Wallace got to bond a little bit, I guess, because, you know,
we haven't really seen much of that, right?
No.
Because it's been Wallace and Wally a lot, or Ace is
I mean, you got obviously,
awesome.
I'm sure a lot of it in the New 52, but I wasn't reading that, so.
Yeah. But I'm talking about. Let's go from Rebirth on. But yeah, no, they get to bond and they get to hang out, and But yeah, I almost kind of like the last one, and I know I wasn't that big on the one from last week that the where they went around the last battle, because those felt a little bit more focused, and they had more story to them. But again, I feel like I'm being too negative, but it was. I'm not upset that I read it. Like, it's still a fine read, but yeah, and nothing else to add.
It's just another example of, like, once again, we're reiterating part of Crisis, and how many times can we have characters reference Crisis, say what happened in Crisis, and then just sort of go on a tour of the multiverse or a tour of DC history. It tends to be a tour of DC history more often than the multiverse, but same kind of vibe, which is just like, here's us reiterating all this stuff again without really actually telling much of a story. Because at the end of this, it's just basically Barry like, yes, I did the impossible. I was willing to give my life again, but I didn't have to because the other heroes were there to help me, because we're a team, because we're Justice League, and that's what superheroes are, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, we've had this many a time at this point. It's not really. I also like
that he does this thing where he runs around the Earth a bunch of times so he can deliver a supermassive punch to the Anti-Monitor. I like that. That was
the visual of that panel made me think of Superman the movie. Yeah. And then they actually had Christopher Reeve Superman pop up. So pretty cool. I don't think that was unintentional. That
was another thing we got clarity on, is that the Batman 66 universe with Wonder Woman, right? The Wonder Woman TV universe, that's its own universe too, they clarify. And then the Superman 70, what was it, Superman? 78 and the Batman 89 are the same universe.
Yeah.
Now.
They're Earth 789.
Yep. So I thought that was pretty cool. I like the way that they worked that out. It was, but yeah, the world punch thing I thought was pretty funny, because the way that Barry, explains it, and he's like, yeah, the more speed you get, the more mass you get, and I'm just gonna keep running until I'm at my limit. Then I'm gonna give him a good old 1-2. So yeah.
Honestly, it's another very, very skippable tie-in one-shot to Dark Crisis, and the only thing that I would say people might like about it is the index at the back, but honestly, you could probably just go to DC Wiki and get a similar list.
Someone posted it early on Tuesday on Reddit. So
there you go. Yeah, someone screenshotted it. You can already see it if you want. Yeah. Doesn't matter.
Right.
So that's pretty much it. So what are you giving that Dark Crisis Big Bang issue 1?
I'm going to give this a 6.5.
Yeah, I'll just go with a straight 6. That's fine. I like Mark Waid's voice for the characters. There just wasn't really much of a story in it.
Yeah.